y'all buckle up and bear with me because this is going to be a long video, and I'm currently dog sitting right now, so it is very likely that one of them will come by to get some head scratches or come bark if there's someone at the door. If that is the case, the latter, then I will be pausing the video, but there is a lot to cover in this video where I want to dive deep into all the transits to be aware of for April. I know I'm subtly late or slightly late for this, but better late than never. My name is Isabelle, and I help you understand the stars so you can feel more clarity and control over your day. Now, before I dive into our April transits, which are massively powerful, specifically for Aries and Taurus and other signs, but I'll get to that in a minute. Before I dive in, make sure you hit the link in the description below to book a reading where we can dive into your chart and also dive into how this month is going to be affecting you the most, specifically with eclipse season, the most important, in my opinion, event of this month that has been affecting us since about March 21st of 2024, and even before that, because this has a lot to do with the North and South Node, which are currently in Aries and Libra, which have been here since June or July of 2023. This is a massive theme for us, and especially impactful for those with Aries and Taurus, sun or rising. Yes, the moon, but not so much, in my own personal opinion of how I do my astrology. So book a reading in the link in the description below, and I've been thinking about doing a new offering where I send a unique personalized horoscope at the beginning of the month based off of your chart, not just your big three, but looking at your chart entirely. This would be anywhere between a 20 to 40-minute video. I haven't figured out that part yet, but let me know in the comments below if this is something you would be interested in, and I won't even necessarily start offering it, but I will get in touch with you and start creating them now. If you reach out soon, I can create yours for April, or you can just book a reading and we can talk about it live. This would be a different offering than my live videos because this would be recorded and available for you to watch any and everywhere for the entire month, rather than having to get a reading, show up to it live, ask questions, and then get the recording. So this would be just sent directly to your inbox. Let me know if this is something you'd want. So this month, primary theme is going to be a lot about our relationship with independence and assertion. And as we get into the month later, we're going to feel more conflict with our sense of financial stability and self-worth. This could be more of a collective theme for us, but it can also be just very personal. So as we start off the month, generally just a lot of Aries energy as we are in Aries season, and then around halfway through the month moving into more Taurus themes. Again, this is why this affects Aries and Taurus the most, because we have a lot happening in Aries. So in this video, I'm gonna just go through the month talking about each of these transits, including what I mean specifically by all these different Aries energies and Taurus energies and other things as well. And you'll probably see me do some sort of big move like that as I get to different key points, because it makes the video easier to edit and for me to remember where I need to put timestamps, because I know that was a big complaint for a lot of people on my last 1 hour video I published. Apologize. I do this all on my own. I do not have a video editor, which means that it takes a long time to get these video ups, researching them, filming them, making sure my facts are correct, putting in timestamps, making sure that everything's okay in the description. It's a lot of work. So I appreciate all your guys' patience, and I appreciate those who always come back to the channel and watch every single one of these videos. I see you. You're awesome. You're amazing. Thank you. And if you guys haven't booked a reading, book a reading. So starting off the month, April 1st, we have the most feared transit I have ever seen in my entire life, and I'm frankly tired of it, but it is Mercury retrograde. Mercury is back in the microwave, it's in the Gatorade, and I frankly don't think of this transit as very important, or however, better said, I do not see how we have misunderstood this transit so much. What a retrograde motion is is simply that from our perspective on Earth, it looks like the planet is going backwards due to how we have a non-linear orbital transit, or orbital circle around us. So basically from Earth, it looks like Mercury is moving backwards, but obviously planets don't move backwards, they only move forwards. Such is life. We only move forwards, even if it feels like we're moving backwards. And so while most people think of this as moving backwards, knowing that truly we cannot move backwards is an important piece that people often forget. And the reason I bring this up is so that we can better understand what Mercury retrograde means. Mercury retrograde, which is in Aries, is a time for us to reflect. And yes, things can be coming back. Oftentimes, this can mean for a Mercury retrograde often means, usually how people say, that an ex is coming back, or an old connection is coming back, or you're having to rewrite something or review something. And we want to be careful during this time because we may miss things. It means simply a time of reflection. And for Mercury retrograde specifically, this is about our communication. Mercury is the planet of the mind and the voice. It shows us how we communicate, how we learn, and how we process. So it's about how we're processing the world and seeing it, how we can learn in the world, and how we reiterate that back to the world. Mercury has been in Aries since March 9th of 2024, and it is in the last degrees of Aries right now. Right as it turns around, around 27, 28 degrees of Aries. It was about to leave and enter Taurus, and then it decided, no, we need to rethink about how we've been communicating this past month's time. And this can probably be a theme a lot of us has felt. Since Mercury entered Aries on the 9th, we may have felt that we want to be more bold and maybe blunt with our communication. For some of us, this may have served us well, but generally because we've had so much Pisces energy and a Libra lunar eclipse in its opposite sign, it probably has detrimented us. We probably feel like we were too blunt, too aggressive, too short with people, too impulsive with our word, and people just didn't get it. And this is something we all felt. We all felt this sense of we're not being heard and we regret what we said or how we said it. People may have been explosive to us, or we were explosive with them. Or maybe we were more like an instant pot, letting out steam in short little bursts or just blowing up, and it just didn't serve us well. And now as Mercury is going retrograde, we can be thinking about for the next 3-ish weeks how we communicated ourselves. Mercury retrograde in Aries is a time for us to reflect on our relationship with the Aries archetype, just as we have been thinking about since the North Node has entered Aries in June or July of 2023. And especially since we are in eclipse season, this reflection on the Aries archetype is very important. But this is specifically about the way we communicate in Aries forms. Mercury in Aries in the positive, as I know, because my natal Mercury is in Aries, they are quick learners, they're adaptable, they're flexible, and they're assertive, and their to the point spoken nature can serve them well. People can admire and respect the fact they just speak it as it is. In the negative, oftentimes in society, because we have a very misconstrued relationship with the Aries archetype, we come across as aggressive, hyper independent, blunt, short tempered, or lacking in communication, keeping things short and not so sweet. And so Mercury retrograde is a time for us to reflect on, how am I communicating? Am I expressing my emotion? Because oftentimes Aries as a fire archetype can mean that we don't communicate ourselves fully, but shortly. And as I said, short but not so sweet, letting out our emotions in very passive aggressive ways. Aries in the positive is assertion, not aggression. And we have to have a level of emotional awareness in order to embrace the Aries archetype well. So For those who are unfamiliar with Aries energy or have it imbalanced, I can't say any specific astrological placement that would indicate this. It's a matter of energetic, what you embrace energetically. For those who struggle with this archetype are going to be reflecting even more on, how am I asserting my sense of identity? How am I asserting my desires and what I need? Am I being aggressive, not assertive? And a lot of this has to do with our relationship with our emotions, which Aries isn't necessarily associated with. Aries has more so to do with our passions, but there is a tie, because the more we emotionally repress, the harder it is going to be for us to embrace the Aries archetype as a general, because Aries is always in alignment with desire. And the more we let that desire get pushed around, so to say, embracing the Libra archetype, being a people pleaser, listening to others, not recognizing self, the harder it will be. So Mercury retrograde is a time for us to reflect on how we assert ourselves verbally. This is about our verbal expression, especially because it's Aries, and Aries is very headstrong. This may have to do a little with our thought process, but it's a lot about how we are actually communicating ourselves to others. And so you may be having to revisit old conversations you've been having with other people. If you are an Aries, you're doing more self-reflection during this time. If Aries is your fourth house, you may be having to revisit conversations with family. So if you have a Capricorn sun or rising, if you have a Libra sun or rising, you're talking or revisiting conversations with your relationship. You probably had a conversation that didn't go so well over the past month. And so now you're having to revisit that, but you can only do so from a state of understanding yourself. So reflect on, and even journal possibly, or send a voice memo to yourself of, what is it you're trying to convey? What is it you are currently trying to convey? What is your sense of identity or sense of self that you're trying to live in alignment with? And how can you come across as assertive and clear without being aggressive and blunt? So Mercury will be in retrograde, bringing up these themes until April 25th, when Mercury stations direct. However, we will still be in shadow phase, so things will be moving slowly with our communication. Take this all with a grain of salt, because I think that Mercury retrograde simply means that we need to remember to have mindfulness and have a sense of self-awareness and be aware of what we are speaking. So if you've dropped your meditation practice, your journal practice, if you've been going on autopilot, now's the time to pick that back up and think about what it is you're trying to be in the world and speak into the world, because our words have power and what we speak becomes our reality. Mercury, by the way, will be in shadow phase until May 15th, and I will cover this more later as we get into how the energies of the stars change when we move into the later end of the month. So April 1st, Mercury is retrograde, but then on April 3rd, we have a different shift of energy that can help us with some of this focus on our blunt side that we have in the spotlight right now with Mercury retrograde. On April 3rd, Venus conjuncts Neptune in Pisces. And I find this transit fascinating because Neptune is said to be the higher octave of Venus, just as Uranus is said to be the higher octave of Mercury, which I'll get into later. But with Neptune being the higher vibration of Venus, Venus is, in a way, you can think about this as Venus is the three-dimensional love and luxury, and Neptune is the fifth-dimensional love and luxury. So for example, Venus is said to be stereotypically our flirting, and this shows how we have materialized our perception of love. And so Venus, with it being in Pisces, we're generally thinking of a more gentle approach to love. We want to connect to more spirituality. We want to just be more unconditionally loving. We may even be a bit more pushovers right now, which definitely forms a complicated relationship with the fact that we have Mercury in Aries for so long, at least as far as this month, which makes it feel like we both want to be passive and yet aggressive, and then we end up being passive aggressive. And so with Venus conjunct Neptune on the 3rd, we are going to be stepping into a higher vibrational sense of love. You may even very well feel, especially if you are an Aries, with this being your 12th house, that you want to isolate during this time. During this transit on April 3rd, you may want to ask yourself, how is love a feeling? Or ponder the concepts simply that love is a vibration that is the source of all things. This may be a concept that feels less foreign during this time. You may find that you can take a gentler approach to life and a gentler approach to yourself. Neptune is stereotypically said to have to do with daydreams and fantasies, so your dreams may be extra lucid during this time, or on the other hand, you may have just gentler experiences with your love life and with your love for life. Venus is not just the planet of romance, it has to do with other people, but it also has to do with our values. It shows us what makes us feel like life is truly sweet. And so with Neptune here, we may find that life feels the sweetest when we get lost in our heads. So spend time in nature, spend time in reflection. If you're a Pisces, you will be reflecting more on your identity during this time. Enjoy this little peaceful pause before we kick back in to more Aries high energy. This month is a lot during the first half about our sense of self and how that relates to releasing the sense of self. Because while Aries is about our identity, sense of self, it also means that our sense of self is found in our desires, not in our appearance, not in our ego. And so differentiating that is important during this time. So on April 5th, Venus then enters Aries. We got to enjoy on the 3rd this peaceful Piscean energy that allowed us to just believe that we are a vibrational being, we are a source of love, we can be unconditional love and let go and serve ourselves. And then from there, we want to just take that to a more assertive degree, take that inner peace and maintain it by being more assertive in our love life. Venus in Aries is a very powerful placement and generally more masculine, so to say, just because it is, I like to call the huntress or the hunter. They see love as something to be chased, pursued, something to be, something that is fun, something that requires more assertion. So when Venus enters Aries, we all want to be more assertive and also independent in love. Hi, Moki. Hi. This is the dog. I'm dog sitting, by the way, and he's gone because I'm not giving him attention. But if you want to learn more about what it means to have your Venus in Aries, or generally kind of get more information on what this vibe will be, I don't ever remember which side it's going to appear on, but check out my video on Venus in Aries. I've also released a blog on makingmindfulnessfun.com on this topic as well. But Venus transiting Aries means that more so we may find that life feels better when we're more independent. We may feel more called to just be a free spirit during this time and be able to experience a little bit of everything. Now is probably not the time where you feel that you want to get tied down in a relationship. After all, I think all of us are feeling more of a theme of independence during the North Node being in Aries. So with Venus here as well, we may be feeling that this is even more true. We don't want to be tied down. We just want to be free in the world. The point is to do so with assertion, not aggression. And tying on to this, from April 5th, Venus entering Aries, we go straight into April 6th. Aries Venus sextiles Pluto in Aquarius, which means that we may be doing, in my interpretation, some trauma healing during this time. Pluto does have a lot to do with the collective change, but it also has a lot to do with just transformation in general. And for my personal life, I've seen this play out as a lot of trauma healing, which tends to be a collective theme. So collectively, we could all be feeling more independent and more ready to look at our sense of self and release the unhealthy ego and sense of self during this time. Can we truly just be a human being walking this planet on our own, fully supported by ourselves, and just enjoy human existence? And what beliefs, what traumas, what wounds are getting in the way of us doing that? This could also mean a bit of an uproar in something in our society, let's say to do with technology, independence, our sense of freedoms. Hard interpretation to say hence why I'm only briefly touching on it. But Pluto in Aquarius does mean that as a society, we are moving towards more innovation, which unfortunately means more technology. A lot of people say the age of Aquarius is going to be our savior. However, I see it that there's no one planetary transit that is our savior. We are only the saviors of ourselves, and by getting in touch with the divine frequency of the universe, tapping into love. Maybe some people see it as getting in connection with God. Same thing in my opinion. But point is, Pluto in Aquarius means that we're moving towards more technology and becoming more connected digitally. And Venus in Aries means that we value living a more independent life. And so with this sextile, we may be finding that this digital world is working out in our favor. So in retrospect, I take back the whole part I said about an uproar of society, because this is more harmonious. A sextile is a good thing. And so we may find that we can feel simultaneously connected by helping others be seen and asserting our own independence. We may be able to respect each other's differences more. And finally, I forgot to be doing this because I'm gonna be awful about finding the timestamps on this, but at least I started now. April 8th is the most important date of the month, in my opinion, because it is the solar eclipse. Eclipse season started roughly on March 21st, which was when we had the lunar eclipse in Libra, conjunct the South Node in Libra, and now we have the Aries solar eclipse, which is conjunct the North Node and five other planets in Aries. And of course, of those, the sun and moon are obviously two of those, but also Mercury is here, the North Node is here, Venus is here, and Chiron. Chiron's gonna be a big one, so I'll get to that in a minute. But the solar eclipse is, simply put, a very key point in the chapter, which is the story, our hero's journey. Our life is a book, and these eclipses represent chapters or key points. We have not had a eclipse in Aries since April of 2023. We were supposed to have one around last fall, but instead it fell into Taurus, I believe. And now we're wrapping up a theme, or revisiting a theme that showed up in April of 2023. I know for me, I was really thinking about my independence, what I wanted to do, my sense of self, what's in alignment with that, being very aggressive rather than assertive, which I know was not the best on my part. It helps that we now have the North Node here. The North Node was not here in Aries in our 2023 solar eclipse. Solar? I didn't realize. I don't know if it's a solar or lunar. I can't remember. In our last eclipse on April 20th of 2023, pretty sure that would be a lunar eclipse now that I think about it. But the point is, we did not have the North Node here, but now we do, which means that we may have not been, during the last eclipse, acting in alignment fully with ourselves. We may have been just experiencing a sense of hyper independence or aggression, or this idea that, you know what, I really want to be more independent and free in this world, and I feel like a lot of people are limiting me. Now with the North Node here, this is a time for us to really step into our highest growth that is accentuated over this 18-month period. The North Node leaves Aries in January of 2025. And with the solar eclipse here, it means that we are having a new start in with our relationship with the Aries archetype, which means for us redefining our relationship with independence and with others. The lunar eclipse on March 25th of 2024 brought to light our unhealthy relational patterns. For Aries, you may have been ending a relationship, or whether that's with a romantic partner, you may have been reassessing your relationship, you may have been realizing you want to be someone different in your relationship. For Libra, you are changing your sense of self, and again, this is about your relationships just because it's on that first 7th house axis. And for Capricorn and Cancer, this was strong as well because this is the cardinal axis. Specifically though, for Aries, this is going to be most powerful because it's in your home sign. The solar eclipse on the 8th in Aries is a time for us where we're finally putting the foot down. Over the past few weeks, since the lunar eclipse, we've been thinking about how we want to be different in our world, how we want to show up with more independence, how we're being pushed around, how things are unhealthy for us, how we are codependent, and now we are seeing how we can form a healthy sense of independence, not from a state of pushing people away, nor from a state of needing to please other people. So we're finding this balance once again between the Libra and the Aries archetype, learning a healthy sense of independence and freedom. With Mercury here retrograde, this is going to be very challenging, I will admit. Honestly, this could mean that we still say the wrong thing, but it works out for the better. Like I said in my previous video, which I will put somewhere here, about the lunar eclipse, our eclipse season of spring of 2024, this is the North Node in Aries, and this solar eclipse is reminding us that failure is okay. We as a society have been taught, as we've become more comfortable, that failure means death, because now that we've become so secure, we've formed so many levels of security. We don't have to go hunting for our food. We don't have to build our own shelter. We have so much comfort that now any sort of rejection or subtle small failures equals death, because we're so unfamiliar with discomfort. Now the Aries archetype reminds us that it's okay to fail, it's okay to be imperfect, and everything works out and everything happens for a reason. So with Mercury retrograde, it can be hard to find the right words. However, given the fact that Mercury is conjunct this eclipse, we are having to speak up in some way. This could mean in one interpretation that we are saying the wrong thing, but it ends up being for the better because the wrong thing ends up actually being the right thing to say. Or it can mean that we are revisiting a conversation that we had earlier in the month, specifically probably around the lunar eclipse. This is a time for us to re-express our sense of self, reassert our sense of self, and again, not from a state of identity, but from desire. So it's important to ask ourselves during this time as we near the eclipse on the 8th, what do I desire? What do I desire? And align your sense of self with that. And if you desire something that feels low vibration, such as I want an apology, I want a better car, ask yourself, why do I desire this? Because we want to be seeking out our desires that keep us in the highest vibration. And after all, everyone's desire in the end is to feel good. So if your desires don't make you feel good, ask yourself why you have them. Are you looking for revenge during this time? Especially because as we move from Libra to Aries, we may be realizing, and we are, our unhealthy codependent patterns are patterns that we use to seek approval, and we can feel like we want to swing the other end of the spectrum. But the North and South Node is not something we reject and embrace. It is something to balance. And so during this time, make sure you're not going into any excessive behaviors. See if you can assert yourself from a place of inner peace. So Mercury's here, retrograde, means revisiting conversations and expressing ourselves. Venus is also here, so we could be doing a lot with our love life, communicating in our relationships or in previous relationships. As people say, Mercury retrograde usually means an ex is coming back into your DMs or texting you, or you're seeing someone again and having a conversation. And this could be a love interest because Venus is here. But what this also means is, again, Venus is not just our flirting and our romance, it's our love for life. And so with Venus here in the same sign as the eclipse, we're asking ourselves, what makes us live a life we love? And how can we do it without needing anything from anyone? Aries, as I said, Aries Venus is the huntress or the hunter. And I didn't touch on this much, but there's this idea of relentless pursuit that Aries Venus has in mind, which in dating life, this could mean that this person is very upfront and blunt, the kind of person who just walks up to the girl or guy at the bar and says, I think you're attractive, here's my number. But in our life in general, it means that we want to have a constant pursuit, a relentless pursuit of what sets our soul on fire. And so thinking about and contemplating what sets my soul on fire during this time is extremely valuable. This eclipse season, as any eclipse season, is about a month long, so we'll be feeling this eclipse theme of Aries energy until we have the Scorpio full moon on the 20th of April. Then we will be, the full moon peaks on the 20th. I think I did that wrong slightly, but it peaks on the 23rd or the 24th. But we enter shadow phase for the Scorpio full moon around the 20th, 21st. And so we will feel these eclipse themes until then. However, it will peak on the 8th, the day of the solar eclipse, which you may be even able to see if you are here in the States. The last eclipse, like I said, was on the 23rd, but we will have one more eclipse in Aries. So this is not a full wrapping up, it's just another realization. Normally we would have another Aries eclipse around September, October, but the degrees are slightly different. Just as last year, how we kind of skipped over one, the eclipse that is supposed to be in Aries in September will instead be in Pisces. And our last eclipse in Aries will be happening in March 29th of 2025. So during this time, you're going to be thinking about how you want to be in this world, how you can be more independent, healing your relationships with your relationships, healing your relationship or your need for approval, but you won't be wrapping this up fully until March 29th of 2025, or possibly even just January of 2025, because that is when the North Node shifts signs. So how I would probably interpret this most is during this time, you're having a huge realization or assertion with your sense of self. You're able to put the foot down finally. You've been thinking about doing it for a year now. You've been thinking for a year on who you want to be in the world, and you may be thinking, oh, how did I get so off track? But you're putting the foot down now with yourself and with others on how you're going to be. And as we enter January of 2025, you will have a stronger sense of self, a stronger sense of independence, and more knowing of your desires. And on March 29th of 2025, you'll be reminding yourself, oh yeah, this is the growth work I've done, and this is what I want to avoid potentially. Here's me having my unhealthy hyper-independent behaviors, and here's how I'm gonna make sure I stay in alignment on the good behaviors. So that's a lot on the eclipse, and I will be doing another video going somehow even deeper into these themes, and it'll probably be coming out on April 7th or April 8th. So stay tuned and turn on post notifications for that. If you want a more in-depth interpretation of how exactly this eclipse will affect you, book a reading where we can dive deep, and you can purchase the recording for an extra $30 so you can rewatch it and have your own journey with analyzing how this will affect you. So book a reading in the link in the description below if you want more on how exactly you will be embracing the Aries archetype. On April 9th, straight after this eclipse, and still in eclipse shadow phase, so to say, 9th through 11th, we have another Pisces energy, which means that on the 8th, we may be really going out there, jumping to conclusions, being bold, putting the foot down, and on the day after, we can be calming down a little, because during this whole time, Mars has been in Pisces, which helps us take action in gentler ways, maybe even though getting pushed around a little bit, but it means that we still have Mercury in Aries, so we're still being bold with our words, just not with our actions. So 9th through 11th, Mars and Saturn are conjunct in Pisces, which means we may be doing more work during this time to be responsible for our energy, responsible for our own happiness, responsible for our vibration. Pisces has a lot to do with just a sense of harmony and peace, which often makes them an empath to their surroundings. However, like I said, for our conjunction between Venus and Neptune earlier in Pisces on the 3rd of the month, yes, I did that right. That was impressive to me. We now are being responsible for upholding our boundaries with ourselves. Pisces is not just though about asking everyone else to respect harmony or your desire for harmony. Pisces in the highest vibration understands that the only person responsible for our energy is us. And attachment can lead to suffering. And so during this conjunction, we may be being more disciplined with our sense of self, with our personal space, and cultivating a stronger sense of independence, and maybe even isolating ourselves in order to maintain that sense of harmony. This is a great thing for all of us. We may be feeling a little restrictive though, because this is Saturn we're talking about. Saturn, the planet of responsibility, who obeys the laws of time, even though I believe time is a construct we've created to understand the universe, because without it, we would not be able to understand this magical creation that is unfolding. So this can help us have a healthy level of restriction, or better word for that. This can give us a healthy structure to form our lives around, to maintain ourselves around. And it can help us wind down from the eclipse. On April 12th, Sun and Mercury are conjunct in Aries. So really it's amazing. This entire month is like a teeter-totter between fiery Aries and then Pisces, and back and forth. So it's like explosion. It kind of makes me think of that scene in Hercules, you know, the Disney one, where Hades blows up and he's like, it's fine, I'm good, I'm cool, I'm good. That's totally what it feels like during this time, at least in my head, and that just makes me laugh. So anytime you feel explosive, you're gonna be able to wind down after. So after the chill, Mars conjunct Saturn, we focus on just maintaining our inner peace. Then we go, okay, hold on, we need to blow up again. Just kidding, but only partially. Sun and Mercury, which is retrograde, conjunct in Aries, which is known as a which is known as a Kazemi, which often happens, just in different signs. So this means that we may be feeling extra passion and power in reflecting on our word. This is maybe a time where we, after spending more time just after the eclipse and after this Saturn-Mars conjunction in Pisces, we may have been just doing our own thing, doing what feels right. We're now reflecting more actively once again on how we express ourselves. Sorry, I thought I saw something in the back of my camera. That was what that weird look was also. It's a big house I'm in right now, and it's a little trippy being really the only one here, but you know, the guard dogs are working on it. Anyway, back on track. So have a bit of a gap here, about a 1 week gap where we can just digest everything. That will be really nice for us to be able to digest what just happened. This in first week or 10 days of the month, we can feel like, okay, let's just recap what I need, what I desire, how I've changed, what I'm working towards. Maybe just enjoy life without having to constantly look at the stars. That is one thing that I feel is the reason I don't do these monthly reports often, because I personally feel that looking constantly at these reports is exhausting, and trying to figure out like what to watch out for becomes exhausting. Our intuition, which you may not think you're in touch with, but are truly, naturally guides us to do the things that we're supposed to do. I cannot tell you how many times I do a reading with someone and they say like, okay, so I'm working on this, and I'm looking at their chart and what's happening in the stars and going, you're already on track. You're already doing the right thing. You don't even need really my advice. You're gonna do the right thing. So contemplate that a little. While you're listening to this advice, know that you're already gonna do the right thing no matter what. And if you just overstimulate yourself, it's gonna make matters worse. But keep watching the video, or at least let it play in the background, because it helps me profit off of YouTube, and every watch minute counts. So thank you. If you're still watching this video 40 minutes in, thank you so much. So then after that little bit of 1 week pause, we have Taurus season begins, which, you know, makes all of us with the sun in Taurus focused more on our sense of stability, less fiery need for change or charging, and more slowing down and indulging in life. Then on the 21st, we have a massive transit once again. Yay. It is Jupiter and Uranus conjunct in Taurus. Jupiter and Uranus come together every 12 to 14 years. However, while this is already a rare event that takes about 12 to 14 years to happen, we haven't had Jupiter and Uranus in Taurus since 1941. This is both a collective thing that is happening for us, but also personal, because I personally feel that Jupiter and Uranus affects me individually. However, if I paid more attention to what was going on politically in the news, I'm sure I would see the theme as well. And so last time we had, like I said, this conjunction of Jupiter and Uranus in Taurus was 1941, specifically May of 1941. And as we know, we were in the middle of World War during that time, which is definitely a huge theme. We're in a war on consciousness right now, so to say, still. But during May of 1941, going a bit deeper into looking at all the things that happened, the one that was most interesting to me is that on May 1st, our savings bonds went on sale. The US put our savings bonds on sale to help finance the war. And I think this is something that could be somewhat of a theme more collectively during this time, because this is Taurus we're talking about. And this means that we're dealing with finances. Taurus does have to do with self-worth and personal finance, which is how it could affect us personally, but also it has to do with our collective finances. And inflation is through the roof. It is just absolutely ridiculous right now. But it's not if you don't pay attention, so to say, or if you are just wearing blinders to the pain. Going to get groceries hurts right now for a lot of people. And so we may be seeing on the 21st some of these themes happening in money once again. We could see a massive inflation, or we could see that prices are dropping, and because this is also Jupiter we're talking about. So this can be interpreted in two different ways. One, Jupiter's expansion, and so this could really mean another massive inflation. Don't panic, it's going to be okay. Trust the process, trust the universe, trust in God. Or this could also mean, Jupiter is abundance, and so this could mean some form of positive change in our finances. Either way, a conjunction is just intense, and I see Jupiter as a very beneficial planet. I love Jupiter. Jupiter is the understanding that all abundance in life comes from a positive vibration. And Uranus, as I mentioned earlier in this video, is the higher octave of Mercury in astrology philosophy, so to say. And so a lot of people think of Uranus as just a lightning bolt. It changes things unexpectedly, which could mean in a low vibration interpretation that prices are going to suddenly, unexpectedly rise for a minute, and it's going to make us all panic. I'm going to interpret this personally as, for my personal life, this is a time on April 21st for me to think and change my mentality around money. How can I see money with more abundance? How can I perceive finances with more abundance? How can I embrace a good vibration and grow as a human being to understand that money is a vibration? To attract more money takes a vibrational frequency. This is what I'm going to be focusing on during this time, and I highly recommend that other people focus on this as well, because there could be something happening externally. This is a very big event. Like I said, it happens only every 12 to 14 years. It is Jupiter, so it is expansion. Let's think of it as a positive expansion. Oftentimes, so Jupiter and Saturn go hand in hand, and we're taught to think that we need Jupiter and Saturn. We need expansion and contraction. And in many of my own interpretations, I say that Jupiter and Saturn together represent a muscle. Jupiter is to stretch the muscle, Saturn is to strengthen. However, in a more philosophical sense, we're taught that we need Saturn, the god of time, Kronos, to have stability, when the truth is it's just a construct if you're going to obey this and stick with only the three-dimensional reality. I'm getting into a really deep concept here, so to say, so bear with me. But what if you just obeyed the idea, or not even obeyed, what if you just leaned into, allowed yourself, softened into, trusted in the sense of the concept of Jupiter, forever expanding, just as our universe is forever always expanding? How can you just allow yourself to keep expanding and keep leaning into trust? A forever fall, so to say, a trust fall that never ends. Maybe you don't need as much construct and structure as you think. So during this massive event of the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction in Taurus, how can you step into a feeling of abundance, expansion, joy, friskiness, as Esther Hicks or Abraham Hicks always says? I love listening to that, her videos. It's amazing. So how can you make yourself feel frisky, as she says, and just enjoy life? Step into what constantly makes you feel a sense of joy. On the 21st as well, we have the Sun in Taurus squaring Pluto in Aquarius. So on the same day, while we may be feeling expansive, we may be noticing that there is some interesting things going on with our sense of self-worth and our trauma healing. We may be having to, again, go deeper, heal some wounds, and release any of our stories we're telling ourselves. Both Taurus and Aquarius are fixed signs, and so this could just pull us into a dynamic of overanalyzing ourselves. Can you just step into the right vibration? I'm personally going to be, in a way, just ignoring any energies that are coming up between this Sun Taurus square Pluto Aquarius, because I feel like it's going to pull me into getting into too mundane of a problem that is so superficial, or feelings that are so superficial that are just trying to keep me stuck in a matrix. Maybe you don't feel this. Maybe you feel challenged to cultivate your sense of self-worth by looking at your wounds, looking at your traumas, writing them down, burning them, breaking them free, and cultivating a sense of self-worth by just being in the world. Maybe that's what you want to do. Maybe that's my recommendation. And then on the 23rd, we have the Scorpio full moon. So we will be feeling this from the 21st. 20th. Yes, I don't know why I'm struggling to do the math here. The full moon affects us for a 7-day period, 3 days before, the day of, and 3 days after. It's been quite a morning, and I feel like I've had a lot of caffeine and my brain's going fast. So on the Scorpio full moon, starting on the 20th, but peaking on the 23rd, which we will be feeling throughout the conjunction in Taurus, the Jupiter-Uranus one, and the square that I said between Taurus and Aquarius, the Sun and Pluto. We're feeling these themes, and that means that really, basically, when Taurus season begins, we're leaving the eclipse behind. We're wrapping that all up. We're done with it. Now we're focused on more so are just stepping into the right vibration. And with the Scorpio full moon on the 23rd peaking, we can be going deeper with ourselves, with our shadow work, with our intimate relationships, redefining what intimacy means, or concluding what we want our intimate relationships to be like. In 2023, 2022, we had the North Node and the South Node specifically in Scorpio. So we already did a lot of reassessing recently on our relationship with the concept of intimacy, which I may say again, intimacy is not just sexual relations, it is vulnerability and being able to show your authentic sense of self. So on the full moon, you may be having culminating themes that started during our last Scorpio new moon, which was probably around October, November, end of October, early November of 2023. And so maybe English, slowing down. So maybe during this full moon, you could be ending a shadow work process, really healing a part of yourself. You could be culminating an intimate relationship. You could be getting deeper with yourself or feeling really connected to the deepest parts of yourself. This will feel, in a way, nice and relaxing. As much as Scorpio is usually intense, it will feel relaxing after having such intense eclipse season. This can feel like just getting to, in a way, connect back to the material reality. As much as Scorpio represents deeper things, we could just be connecting with our intimate sense of self, or changing what our relationship with intimacy will be, or redefining what we want our sexual relations to be like. Specifically true for those with an Aries sun or rising, because this is your 8th house of sexuality. But it's not just sexuality, it's shadow work. On the 25th, Mercury is direct, retrograde is over, and we can move forward with assertion and independence and asserting our sense of self verbally. Mercury will though be out of shadow phase by the 15th, as I said, so you may be having a slow walking start back in the right direction. You could feel a better sense of clarity. You could be able to, again, communicate ideas and move forward on the path you were on, starting, moving on with the themes that were around during May 31st, because once April 1st hit, you had to reassess. And then on the 29th, Venus will enter Taurus, another thing leaving Aries. So this even more brings us back to a slower, steadier pace of life. We could be focusing on just enjoying, stopping and smelling the roses. After doing this work to assess our sense of independence and heal ourselves and work towards our growth, we now get to just have a little bit of time to enjoy life. Enjoy life. Enjoy working towards better finances. Enjoy just the little things, spending time by yourself, being out in nature. Taurus loves to indulge, so you could be wanting to indulge. And if you're thinking about a relationship, having a partner that indulges in you and treats you, because Taurus, Venus loves to be spoiled. And I will put my video here on Venus and Taurus if you want to learn more about that as well, hopefully. And then finally on April 30th, Mars finally enters Aries and leaves Pisces, which means now we are taking action in alignment rather than just talking about taking action. And we can be taking action in alignment with our sense of self in ways that are enjoyable. They're not necessarily intense. You may be doing intense things, but in the end, these things fulfill a sense of enjoying life. You're not pushing yourself outside your comfort zone. Emotionally, you're pushing yourself outside your comfort zone physically to emotionally indulge in life more. I kind of wrapped that last few up fast, but really overall, this month as a whole is a time for us to really put the nail in the coffin, or put our foot down and set in stone our sense of self. And from there, as we get to the second half of the month, we can focus more on the material life from a strong sense of self. Again, those who are going to feel this month the most and are in the spotlight are, of course, the birthday signs, Aries and Taurus. You guys are going to have quite the month ahead of you. Taurus, you're going to be doing a lot of psychology work, and then you're getting to just enjoy your sense of self. Aries, you're doing a lot of sense of self work, cultivating your sense of self, and then you get to just enjoy life and work on your material security, your sense of self-worth, and your financial gain. So everyone's going to be affected, primarily those two signs. If you want to learn more about your unique horoscope and how this is going to affect you, book a reading. And if you don't know anything about your chart in the first place, it's probably best for you not to really look at much of this video. You don't need to keep this all in mind. There's so much that can be extracted from your birth chart already. So book a reading with me in the link in the description below. And again, let me know in the comments below if you guys want me to start offering a horoscope video that gets sent directly to you via email that is unique to your personalized birth chart. Let me know in the comments below. That is all for April astrology. I will be putting up this video as soon as possible. Let me know if you have any questions, and stay tuned for more videos breaking down the stars. Thank you guys so much for watching. Once again, my name's Isabelle, and from my heart to yours, namaste.